Doing fine. They're over there at his dad's house looking at stuff today. trying to get an auction house to come in and
Right.
take care of everything. So yeah, he's doing okay.
Then how's the new grandbaby?
Mr. Chairman, you have the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to the ALCOSAN Advisory Committee meeting. This meeting is being taped, just as a reminder. The date is October 19th, 2021. Stevie, do you want to do a roll call?
Good afternoon. Nick Bianchi. Lisa Werder-Braun.
Present.
Lloyd Cunningham.
Here.
Dan DeMarco. Patricia DeMarco.
Present.
Tina Duche. Ariam Ford Graver. Nick Grieshock.
I'm here.
Mark Heckman. Rebecca Kiernan. Ken Lasata. Ruth Ann Omer. Stanley Paps. Will Pickering. Mary Ellen Ramage. Tim Rogers.
Present.
Mark Samponia.
Here, and I see Ruth Ann Omer's here also, as well as Mary Ellen.
Got that. Kathy Sapp. Danielle Ventresca.
Here.
Kinsey Casey.
Here.
Darla Cravata.
Here.
Matt Tunker.
Here.
I have 9.
Unfortunately, with 19 seated members, we need 10 for a quorum. We'll need to delay action on the action item, which luckily is just the approval of the minutes from September.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining. I guess then we'll start with an update on the draft 537 special study on regional tunnel system and tunnel dewatering pump station.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then I'll let one of the bigger brains, Kim Kennedy, really do the details. We have been meeting with municipalities that have an impact by the planned tunnel system to get their approval on a special study. We have already met with Etna, Shaler, and Aspinwall, and we have a meeting this week with the staff of the Hampton Shaler Water Authority. We're going to be continuing that as we move forward. So Kim, do you want to talk about the study and what it's all about? I did send everybody a fact sheet about it.
Sure, Jean, thanks. So hello, I'm Kim Kennedy. I'm the Director of Engineering. Again, the reason that we have to do the 537 plan, it is a requirement of any major change to your facilities. And back in 2018, we did a 537 special study for the plant expansion. That only had to do with the city since the plant is located within the city of Pittsburgh. So the regional tunnel system, so the other section of the Clean Water Plan implementation actually goes through not only the city, but 8 other communities. So the requirement for passing an Act 537 special study is that each of the communities where a facility passes, we're asking them to pass a resolution in support of the 537 plan. So that is Aspinwall, Etna, McKees Rocks, Millvale, O'Hara, Shaler, Sharpsburg, and West Homestead, in addition to the city of Pittsburgh. The 537 plan itself is really just a compilation of the history of all of the work that we've done to get to this point, and really documents things such as like our population planning, our existing conditions for the flows, previous wastewater planning, and population, and then all the alternatives analysis. So it's actually a very dry document, but it's a very important component. And here's what I think the most important part is that, so I think we may have alerted the committee that we did award the design for the Ohio River Tunnel at the September board meeting. And we plan on having notice to proceed in November for the Ohio River Tunnel final design. But in order to get the Part 2 permit to construct the facilities associated with that, we have to have an approved 537 plan. So it may seem that in 2021, it seems very early to have some of these discussions, but it's actually really timely that we are having these discussions now. Get the resolutions, either the fourth quarter of this year, the first quarter of next year, incorporate well, first of all, give the municipalities a chance to look at it, comment, incorporate it, and then we plan on submitting the final version of the report next summer, June, July of 2022, to the agencies. And per our consent decree, we have to have the Part 2 submitted for the Ohio River Tunnel at the beginning of 2023.
Any questions? A couple things. One is it possible to have Max draft a draft resolution for those municipalities so that we don't get 10 different resolutions?
Oh yeah, we have a resolution. So Jean has a resolution. It's the DEP resolution. So I think, Jean, you planned on
Yeah, it's
circulating
in the
Word
packet, but I'll send you an electronic copy, Tim.
Okay, if it's in the packet, that's good, then we have it.
Yeah.
So the other question is, what happens if a municipality doesn't pass a resolution? Well, as like in our case, the concern is for the aquifer that
Right.
this is going to go through. And it sounds like you're going well under the aquifer, but what happens if a municipality objects?
So I think Max, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the obligation would be on ALCOSAN to document that we tried, right? That we had the meetings with the, during executive session, that we have reached out and really made an attempt to communicate and explain and work with our customers. At the end of the day, it's your discretion whether or not you pass it, but we have an obligation to at least make the effort to get the resolution passed.
To my colleagues on the committee here, we did have a presentation on the 12th in executive session. And we were able to do it in executive session because we told ALCOSAN we were probably going to end up suing them, but that's another issue. But they did a very nice job. They came out with 5 people and made a really good presentation on the tunnels. I was taken back by the depth of the tunnel. How deep is this tunnel again, Kim?
On average, 150 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I'd like is, and I'll be the past chairman by then, but I hope somebody will call me and let me take a walk through this thing. It should be a pretty cool experience. But my board had some decent questions. And I think one of the things that we need to convey is the minimum impact. I mean, people aren't going to see this tunnel construction other than the entries. Now, I assume there's going to be some access shafts to the tunnel along the design, Kim?
Right. So when we pick up the CSO or F overflow, we'll have to have a drop shaft. And at that point, we would have some type of access to be able to inspect and clean the tunnel in the future. Those would only be at those pickup points. And so we've got 3 tunnel segments, the Ohio, the Allegheny, and the Mon, and there's about 6 or 7 pickup points for each of them. So there aren't that many connections. Our sewer sheds collect into a point of connection, and that's where our overflow is. That's where the connection to the wet weather tunnel will be. And that's the only time that would ever have a surface disruption. Other than that, you're going to have a launch shaft that the tunnel boring machine goes in. You're going to have a retrieval shaft at the end of that segment. And that you'll never know where that tunnel boring machine is, and it would never encumber any future development of anything above it. It's 150 feet deep in solid bedrock. It will not stop any, any future plans for the land above it.
Does that eliminate effectively like A67, A68? Those are overflows into the Allegheny River and all other overflows. Does that effectively eliminate those overflows?
Yes. Mike, do you want to add to that?
That's where the other shaft will be, Tim and Etna at A68. The second one she was just talking about,
Yeah.
that's where the the overflow shaft will be.
Okay.
Correct, Kim?
That's correct. Mike?
Yes, yeah, these will eliminate, essentially eliminate the overflows at A68. So that 350 million gallons that's currently discharging in a typical year will be eliminated. Now, there will be some extreme events, obviously, that the will not be designed to convey, but, during, our benchmark is the receiving water quality, and in trying to achieve a specific end game in the receiving waters with bacteria. So
in the extreme events, how are those extreme events relieved from the system?
they would be relieved through a relief outfall
Okay,
at that location.
so there'll still be a relief outfall there. It's just-
Correct. And the tunnel will have some relief outfalls as well, just to, during very extreme events, just to mitigate the impact of surge that could form during certain events. So there's going to be a lot of design components of this facility that we're going to be putting into effect to make sure it operates properly, as well as overflows during a extreme event where you might lose power or something. So
yeah.
So just as a big picture reminder, where everything's at like a 25% design. That's where we did our advanced planning. We're only right now going to advance the Ohio River Tunnel to the final design stage. And then we'll do it in pieces. So conversations, this isn't the last time you'll hear, and this isn't the last time that our customers and our partners will have a chance to dig into the details and really provide input, right, into the final design. And we have to talk about the Allegheny and the Mon sections as it relates to the 537 plan, but there will be a significant additional engagement when we do the final design pieces of those legs. So it's like we're talking about it now, but we plan on coming back and talking about it with
Right.
significant more detail when we're actually in the final design piece of the Allegheny and the Mon sections.
I assume that you'll learn some things in the Ohio that you'll be able to
Sure.
transfer over
Oh,
and
absolutely.
adjust.
Definitely. And, a lot of it technically and also related to the permitting.
Does the tunnel
That's not
boom,
till 2026, correct, Kim, for the Allegheny?
It starts, let me look.
And the design starts in 2025, I think, but 2028, Kim? 2029?
But 2028 is your construction for the Allegheny, but you're right, the design will start in 2025.
I'll be in a wheelchair by then. So the tunnel boring machine never really goes away, correct? It waits for its next. It's the same, theoretically, it's the same machine.
Well,
I mean, it could be. I mean,
Yeah.
depending on if the same contractor gets the next phase.
it's a low bid work,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
I got you. Okay.
it's an advantage because whoever wins the Ohio will have that machine, but it's not guaranteed to be the low bidder.
Gotcha. Good. Okay, any other questions, comments? I'm interested to see if any of us, those of us that have to pass resolutions, you ALCOSAN, do you anticipate anybody approaching us and objecting to this? And what would be the form of an objection?
I don't believe so, but we do have McKees Rocks that are currently suing us, and You
Right.
know, we're trying to make sure that everybody understands how sincere we are about making sure we protect the riverfronts, and how sincere we are about keeping communities involved in the process. We've actually asked all the municipalities to help us reach out to their communities.
Okay. And the McKees Rocks, the nature of their objection isn't the tunnel itself, it's just the location of the entry.
It's a property issue.
Mhm.
No comment.
No comment. Thanks, Max.
I tried. Okay, anything else? Anybody else? Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to,
Could I just
Okay.
point out that Mayor Lasota is now on, and so if you want to do the minutes, I think we now have a quorum. Is that true, Max?
If we have 10, we do have a quorum and we can go.
Tina Doucet just joined us also.
Oh, good.
1+1.
okay, welcome Ken and Tina, and then let's go ahead with item number 2, possible approval of the minutes of the September 2021 meeting. Your pleasure.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes. Ruth Ann Omer.
Mark Zampagna, second.
Ruth Ann and Mark, thank you. A motion and a second. Question on the motion. Being called, all in favor, give your consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Those objecting, we hear none. We'll go to item number 4, which is an update from Three Rivers Wet Weather. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Three Rivers, as you know, over the last month, we held 3 elected officials meetings to update on the consent orders and the requirements of municipalities. And we did it based on a 3-basin group, south, east, and north. And Mary Ellen's community gets, I think, the prize for having the most elected officials there. And I think it was well received. We had separate meetings, one that was specifically on the combined source, and obviously one that was on the separates. Very high level, trying to just educate the elected officials on what the system's all about. Now that we've completed that, we are going to arrange a virtual meetings for those who could not attend or those who did not feel comfortable attending an in-person meeting. But I think overall they were well received. Unfortunately, during that meeting time, DEP had not yet sent out the combined SOAR agreement, but our understanding is they were mailed last Friday. I don't know if that was in fact done or if you've received any of those. Mary Ellen?
We got it in the mail yesterday, which really makes it tough. I can't discuss it on my October meeting because that's tonight. So, the letter comes with, you should do this by XYZ. My board can't discuss it till November because it wasn't advertised on the agenda. So, that's kind of one of the things my board was asking after the meeting you held, like, what can they be sure what they learned at that Three Rivers Wet Weather meeting is in line with what the consent order was going to be, because we had the meeting before we had the consent order.
And I would say yes, that the hold up in you're on that committee, the hold up was really the exhibits. And the exhibits had noted that the areas of the sewer area, so if there was combined or there was some separate that were feeding it, a lot of them were listed as NA. And in July, we had come to an agreement with DEP that Three Rivers would work with ALCOSAN and everybody to develop those areas of NAs. We had started to work on that immediately. And there was also some indications on those Exhibit A's for combined communities that had the points of connection as no capture rate was there. and it was a to be determined, and you're some of those. And again, in July, we had agreed that Three Rivers would work with the municipalities in ALCOSAN to develop those to be determined during the due diligence. DEP had agreed. In September, late September, they changed their mind and they wanted us to develop that. Fortunately, we had already started working on the NAs for the areas. We were able to turn that around pretty quick. And through some more negotiations, we essentially told DEP that to do the to be determined in this short period of time was not going to be feasible. And we had a lot of conversations with our partners here at ALCOSAN, and it really worked. We were able to convince them to modify a note on the bottom that says, during this 6-month period, we will do that. So that's what led to the ability to issue the orders. Now, unfortunately, the hybrid communities still have not received theirs. And part of that concern is 4 municipalities may be moving from combined to hybrid. And we're going into some details and had a lot of conversations with ALCOSAN and our mapping. And I just finalized a email to be going back to DEP, trying to straighten out those 4 communities so that we can do that. So they're at a disadvantage, but we are committed to doing this modeling that will generate these to be determined percent captures. And ALCOSAN is providing us with a lot of the information to do. Mike's on here, and we're really trying to make sure we don't double spend communities' monies. ALCOSAN, as you know, is doing a great effort with the plant expansion and the tunnels. We're trying to make sure that we can incorporate that in so the municipality is not spending money that a few years from now, ALCOSAN does that improvement. So we are working hard, and I firmly believe that's one thing we have to stay united on. And during the meetings, I think the real impact of these orders are going to be the projects have to be on a point of connection. So some communities, and we'll use Mary Ellen, if you don't mind, as an example. I think you have like 9 that are below that need to be increased for the percent capture. That's 9 projects. That's a lot of work and a lot of money. And so I think what we're going to have to make sure we do as communities, and we've been doing it, and Mary Ellen had a great suggestion right when I took over here in February that we need to concentrate on the systems separately. And I think that's been a real benefit to us. And I think going forward, we need to stay united as a region, that if we get to this point, once you design it, that we can go back to DEP and say, listen, it's not feasible to do this many projects. These are the ones that are better bang for the buck during this period. And the other thing that we need to foster, and I think this group can maybe help, is the intercommunication between communities that go to the same points of connection. In some cases, let's just use a 3-community example. There's 2 combined SOAR communities and 1 separate. Well, the separate SOAR community, in their reduction under their orders of 10%, will ultimately help the downstream community of the CS, the combined source. So we got to make sure everybody's talking, because their 10% project might help move this percent capture rate for the combined source. So we really need to foster this inter-municipal dialogue. And ALCOSAN has asked us, and we've worked with them on a couple special projects up on the Mon right now, where we've got communities to come together and really work together and have worked on some grow projects. So it's a great start, and we're going to have a lot of good talking points to come out of that. We have created some additional mapping on our website, where we have a site that is just dedicated to the phase 2 order information. So anything that's dealing with the phase 2 is posted on this site based on the type of SOAR community. And Exhibit B, since the separate was out first, we enhanced the mapping based on some engineers' inputs. And we are now doing that for the combined SOAR communities so that you at a glance can be able to see on this map, the communities, what feeds into this point of connection. And so that'll help with the communication part. And you'll see if that upper community is a CSO or whatever. So I think we're making some really good strides. ALCOSAN has been extremely informative with us in helping us format some of these modeling that we're going to have to do. And on the separate system, we've been receiving a lot of questions now that the orders come out that are specific. When people start to read it and start to ask, we're able to vet those with the agencies. And then we post them onto the site. There's a question and answer section there. So that helps other communities. And what I've been pushing in our meetings are, if you have that, community A has that question, more than likely there's other communities that have the same question. So Mary Ellen, if you start getting those questions, or any of you here that have communities, encourage them to ask us the questions, because we can vet those out.
Yeah, I actually have one, of course. I just did some research on this. One of the questions I asked early on when I got my exhibit, and I didn't get a response from anyone yet. Ross Township isn't listed on there anywhere, and they contribute. And so I have 9 CSOs that are going to stay mine, that I have projects on, which, as you said, is too expensive. And we also know over here, the tunnel and the plant expansion is going to help. But I have a line that comes through my community that's 2 municipalities and has an SSO on it. I've just been told that SSO in that line is part of the transfer. But my CSOs are not, even though they have contributing communities.
I don't know how to answer that without looking at the map, but if the other communities are going to the SSOs, we can look at that, and I'll follow up with you to see which 2 that is, okay?
Yeah, but I already have my order, so this is
Well, that's why
very
we
frustrating. Well, I know I can appeal, which costs me money.
but
We're going to have to hire an attorney to appeal our particular circumstances. And I understand, I can't even imagine what, all throughout the system, all this stuff that, who goes into what and combined into an SSO and yada, yada, yada. But, this.
Hey, Mary Ellen, do the other 2 communities know that they are in your system, and this couldn't be new, right?
Most certainly. They have agreements.
So it was just
one of them recently didn't remember that they stored into Aetna. So I sent the agreement again, and that happens. Institutional knowledge is lost, people change. But, I got a real problem with that. I just found this out, and I'm like, well, I don't understand. Why are the CSOs still mine when I have flow from other communities coming into it? And we can talk offline on that, but
if they're contributing to it, they have to keep reducing in their systems if they're an SSO.
well, if the SSO isn't going to be theirs after the transfer,
You still have to reduce flow going into the system, even though it's not our SSO.
You're contributing to an SSO.
Right.
If you're contributing to an SSO, it doesn't matter. Plus, the probability of the transfer and the SSO on that trunk line being transferred at any time soon is not going to be that quick of a process to get those permit changed. But I think we'll look at this because you're right, Mary Ellen. This is not just unique to your community. I'm sure it's going to happen in some of the other communities. So we'll need to look at it, and there's going to be hiccups.
It's the time frame that you have to say all this. I think is it 6 months? I know initially it was 3.
Six, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very complicated, and it's more complicated when other systems don't fully even understand. It's in the meantime, we're the ones that are going to be held to that order. And it's dependent upon a lot that's out of our control. So it's very nerve-wracking.
So Dave, if there's other communities that like this and that we have in our particular watersheds, you're saying that Three Rivers would try and help mitigate and get it straightened out a little bit? Are you offering that, or what advice should be? Because she's not the only one that is questioning this stuff.
Yeah, we're going to, help in looking at any of the data. ALCOSAN is supporting us at anything they have. Mary Ellen hit it. A lot of it is institutional knowledge, and I talked about that at my meetings. Too many times things haven't been put on maps because somebody in Public Works knows better than, so it wasn't transferred. So we really need to get through that. We're here with you. We're here to go back to the regulatory agencies and say, this isn't working. They need more time. Arbitrarily, I don't know where the 6 months come from. That was just a time period, but I guess you have to start somewhere. But if we don't have a starting point, there's no place to move it. And what I say is if we stay as a region, we have more to go back to them than Mary Ellen's example, fighting on her own. I think if we go back, as this could be affecting other people. So I think we have a lot of work here to do in this next 6 months. I don't expect any of the CSO communities really to have these in effect till after January. It's just not reasonable. DEP kind of drug their feet. They're sending them out now. Holiday seasons are coming upon us. Budget seasons are coming upon us. So there's a lot of factors going in. So I think this is a big moving part, and we're gonna stay in there with you.
I really appreciate that. It's very frustrating. We've done at least one sewer project for the last 12 years, plus a $500,000 Penvest loan, plus 3 major stormwater green streetscapes. We've spent in excess of $3 million, and I'm nowhere near getting 85% capture.
There is a community in the South Hills area that is a combined sewer community that's doing a separation project right now. And that's for one point of connection. They have several in their community, and their project was $3 million to do one project. So I think when you look at this logically, you need to go through and look at what's the best bang for your bucks on the POC. And that's when we're going to have to go back to the agencies, because if one POC's costed the community $3 million and they have 9 to do, it's pretty simple math that they're not going to be able to do it. And one thing with the CSO communities, you do have the argument of the feasibility on economics. But again, DEP has come out and said, that's not going to give you a free pass. That might not give you 10%, might give you 2 or whatever. So I think there's a lot of work. But Mike and I have had several conversations about how we can make sure that their improvements are factored into these. I don't want to speak for Mike. I know he's on here, but I've had a lot of good conversation about that.
Yeah, and if there's mapping updates, if there's mapping that's incorrect, Dave has Matt McCurry on his staff, and we have staff here who can assist, just to make sure the mapping's correct. We're doing that continually, right, Dave?
Yeah, constantly we're doing it. We just got something today about some people, some things that just don't seem to jive.
Right. So again, I mean, if there's something that's not being shown correctly, get those updates to us. We'll re-examine it.
You have my apologies, Mary Ellen, if nobody gave you a response, but I'm.
No, that's a while back when we finally got our updated exhibits. So it was shortly after your public meeting.
Okay.
And nobody answered the email. So.
All right, I will check in and have our apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dave?
Hey, Dave, don't you have a little meeting coming up in November that you want to put a plug in for? Or
Yeah, we
am I
have.
dreaming? Or was it canceled this year?
No, we have our in-person conference on the 3rd and 4th. I think we have some great speakers. ALCOSAN is going to talk about all the work they're doing. And one of the things that came up in one of our meetings was a talk about how you could do calculation on reduced flows due to green infrastructure. And the person that rose to the top was ALCOSAN's GROW person, Tim Prevost, who does a lot of that, which they've used in GROW. So we're having that. We have some great talk. We have Dr. Gerald Cohen, the former president of CMU, is going to be our keynote speaker. And he's going to talk about really highlighting regionalization. As you know, he did that study several years ago with ALCOSAN and everybody. And again, we don't work as a region. If we don't all work together with ALCOSAN and all the communities, we won't solve this problem. There's a lot of great speakers on there this year, so we hope people attend.
Can I just put in a plug for Three Rivers Wet Weather? I attended the 3WG meeting last week, and they did a really wonderful job of a simulation. And they had people divided up into different communities, and we went through step by step the critical questions and the strategic steps that communities needed to take once they got their exhibits and their orders. And so it was really fascinating, very fast paced. And I think that people learned a lot. I sure did. So kudos to Three Rivers Wet Weather.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, we tried something different, tried some interaction. And really what it comes down to is, I think people were hesitant at the beginning of the meeting, but by the end, they were understanding that communication with your neighbor is really going to be a big part of this process. Thank you.
Anything else for Three Rivers? Hearing none, any updates from advisory committee members? Just from us.
I don't have any updates. I just, I don't want to be a broken record, and I know people are busy. Have we gotten anywhere on the communication? Last time I brought up again about helping us communicate with the municipalities and what's going on. And have we made any progress on that?
Yes, we have. We are.
She is. Hi, Arletta.
Hey, how you doing? We're making progress. We're finalizing some of the materials, and we'll be coming back to you for unveiling and training.
Great. Thank you so much.
Has anybody approved their DEP agreements? Other than myself. Okay.
Yes, we have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I believe ours was approved also.
I think in our watershed, we have only one community that has not, and they're planning to do so. It was.
And transfer agreements, where is everybody moving on those?
I believe we've signed one so far. We have another one to go.
Okay. Anybody else?
And at least on ALCOSAN's I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry, I'm having audio difficulties, hence the earplugs. But in terms of the status, we have not fully executed a transfer agreement yet, but we are in, I believe Laura said, DEP permit transfer process, but they are still moving forward.
Ken?
I was going to offer that Heidelberg's one of the handful of communities that doesn't get to play in the transfer sandbox.
That might be a good thing, Ken.
Yeah.
I could still bring you a satellite treatment facility if you change your mind.
Ken, it's time to say yes, because they're not only are they doing satellite facilities, but I hear it comes with the park.
What about the trail?
Next item is the report to the ALCOSAN Board of Directors. Is that Eugene?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I will be starting to work on that next month. If you have, what I did last year was just go through all of the meeting minutes and create a report for your approval. So if you have any more specific than that, just let me know. Because that's what I intend to do this year too.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Upcoming meetings, November 23rd.
Yes, that was just I had to put something down on paper. And then a number of people said, I know you have no life, but that's a holiday week. Do you really want to make us come to a meeting then? Our specific conflict is that we have our Green Committee meeting at exactly the same time as the Advisory Committee meeting. We could do the Advisory Committee on the same day, but we'd have to do it like at 10 o'clock in the morning.
On the
So
6th.
that would be the week before the holiday week. If that will work for people, we could do it on another day.
Is that the 16th?
Yeah, we could go back to the original date and just do it at 10 o'clock in the morning if that would work for everybody. Of course, I'm saying that knowing that I have a standing 10:45 meeting with all the other directors, but I have a feeling we could move that around. Boss?
We have some flexibility there. And please do not use the B word.
I thought it was the other B word.
Okay,
So
is everybody okay with that meeting, that time and date?
The
23rd,
16th
10
at
a.m.
10?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Everybody okay? Any objection? Hearing none, we're good. No meeting in December for the same reason, holidays. And public comment, is there any public in the meeting?
No.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order?
I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that Kathy Sapp is here. She came by phone. And so she was trying to be heard, but couldn't quite connect fully.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kathy.
Any questions, Kathy? Did you have anything?
No, it was a good meeting, very informative. I do want to apologize. I was muted. I've been on since 1:55, so I was trying to say present for attendance, but I was muted. So thanks for unmuting me, and it was a very good meeting.
Glad to have you. Max, anything for the order?
No, nothing further to report.
Thank you. Therefore, if there's no objection, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.